Welcome back, everyone, to the Because Marie Said So podcast. My name is Marie Adornato, and we have some amazing things to talk about this episode. We are going to talk about all things bridal sass, all things fashion and business, and we have an amazing one of the biggest icons in the bridal industry and the social occasion industry that's joining us today, which is who is Matt Sutherland, and he is from Jovani Fashions, the number one name in designer evening wear. And Matt is joining us remotely from the Giovanni Couture showroom in New York City. Welcome, Matt. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing so well. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We are so psyched to have you coming in with us today because your job is like one of the most amazing jobs, and your dresses are just beyond. And I know that I've been a customer for almost 25 years now. Tell us a little bit about how you became involved with Giovanni.
Of course. So I actually have worked with Giovanni for about a decade now, but for them solely for about 1.5, 2 years almost. But I actually started at a store in Nashville, Tennessee, where I'm from originally. And I had lived in New York previously, so I would come and visit the showroom here in New York with Giovanni, and they just welcomed me and embraced me. And I have a very unique brain that works very well with fashion and knowing unique fabrics and understanding the trajectory of trends and things like that. So I've had a lot of opportunity in putting out lots of fashion emergencies, basically, and also just curating and creating amazing one of a kind pieces for people that you could never imagine. So my roster is pretty remarkable. I've gotten to work with some great celebrities along the way, and just every day presents its own unique tasks that you wouldn't even anticipate, honestly, most of the time. But yeah, Giovanni has been around for about 30 years. And it is a family run business, but it is one of the largest fashion wholesalers in the entire world. We sponsored Miss America last year, and we've had quite a few fun moments along the way for sure. So, yeah, but no, you're an amazing account, and I'm so glad to be able to work with you and get to come and visit you and see how your line's going and everything, and even working together. It's been pretty magical.
Now, your experience isn't just in fashion, but it's also in
Mhm.
design as well. So, you had a
Mhm.
little bit of experience in designing Barbie dolls?
Yeah. I actually, my dream goal was always to work for Mattel in their design department. And so I worked with them a little bit, but the Mattel world is a little bit different than fashion as far as like getting into that family aspect with the company. So with them, I do one of a kind pieces for clients. Like I work a lot with cancer recovery patients, and then I also make one of a kind pieces for clients to bring them into Barbie land from the Barbie the movie kind of aspect. But then as far as fashion is concerned, I did a lot of stage wear for country music people and like Reba McEntire. I did some fun things for Stevie Nicks, but Giovanni is kind of we branch out to everyone, so it's not just that one unique piece for stage wear. It's kind of more broad, and we do things that you would never imagine. And a lot of it never even gets to be seen by the public because it's just that special and unique. So we get to see a lot of cool things for sure.
I love how versatile Giovanni is. I wear a lot of the Giovanni, like the suit jackets and a lot of the ready to wear pieces. I wear to work and I wear, for shows and things like that. Actually, wearing the Giovanni merch shirt that the prom goers received this past season. So thank you for that.
Heck
One,
yeah, you look amazing, by
oh,
the way.
thank you. It's the Pilates.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that, as a professor and as an educator, that I like to share with my students and talk a lot about is a lot of times young people will have a difficult time figuring out like what should the trajectory of my life be? How do I take my talents and how do I monetize that? And how am I able to earn a living off of that? And I think a lot of times figuring out what your passion is and where the business side of it is and bringing that together becomes really pivotal in figuring out what your career is going to look like in the future. And it seems to me that you've done that pretty darn well. What have you seen in recent months as styles that are trends that are changing, that are new, that are recurring, that have now resurfaced from the past? What are we seeing for this upcoming prom season, let's say?
So in fashion in general, right now, we're seeing a really high intake in the Y2K trends. You're seeing a lot of the grunge aspect of like the early 2000s. Like, I'm not going to say Avril Lavigne, but think that era and think what was going on in fashion with that. So that's kind of prevalent right now, some kind of edge. It doesn't necessarily fit into formal wear, but it is something that we're able to kind of do our own take on because we have a lot of interesting materials that we work with, like leathers and grommets and things like that. But the biggest trend of the year, I'm sure you knew about this, was that ball gowns. There's a print on a ball gown that was very, very, very trendy this past season. So we're tired of seeing it. So we're hoping that it slows down and we can make some room for just normal, fun, actual fashion. But you do see that fashion trends often follow political trends. So depending on what's going on politically, your fashion may be a little bit more fun and extravagant and crazy. Like if you think of the 60s and what was going on politically in the 60s and why tie-dye became so prevalent. So I definitely think that we're going to see some fun prints coming out in the following seasons. But I do think that we're going to start to see a trickle of simplicity. So I think that people are going to not necessarily want to pay less. They'll pay more money for something that's simple and well made, that they know they may be able to wear again. So we're seeing that as a trend. But yeah, it's still that ball gown with the ruffles. Oh my goodness.
Yes, and the basque waist, right? That V waist, we call it. I feel like that's just becoming popular on the East Coast where we live in upstate New York. I know in other areas of the country, it's probably maybe exhausted, but we're seeing that the customers, even in bridal, that is really the styling that they're kind of looking for.
Are they looking for like a Bridgerton sleeve? I'm just curious.
Yes, I actually designed a dress called Bridgerton, and it's got the Bridgerton sleeve. It's a
I
fitted.
love that.
It's fitted. It's natural waist. We are doing a version of it with a basque waist with
Gotta do a
exposed
basque,
boning,
yeah.
but it's in crepe too. And you mentioned about simplicity, which simplicity I think is something that is trending pretty strongly, and I think lace is also, but we're starting to see that little bit more of a transition into more classic and
Yeah,
using
especially in
accessories
bridal.
to kind of change the look a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, in bridal, that simplicity, like classic old Hollywood almost aesthetic, has been so prevalent recently that I mean, we've had to adjust the way that we've done things. And also in bridal, the modernization of a peplum has become pretty prominent, as well as a dress that has the idea of a peplum and then like a skirt that you can change underneath it that's like long or short, different things like that.
And
So yeah.
we have seen so much of the peplum in the 90s, early 90s when I was, wearing the peplum.
Yeah.
Peplum I always loved because it gives you a little bit of coverage in the lower part of the waist. One of the things that I wanted to ask you a little bit about was on your fashion sales side. So what's one of the biggest misconceptions that the public or your retail customers have about selling in fashion, whether it's in the bridal industry, the prom industry, in ready to wear? What sort of misunderstandings or miscommunications publicly, or what types of things have you seen that are probably a way for you to kind of now clear up when it comes to fashion sales?
Well, I think one of the largest things is we at Giovanni, we always have a lot of really great inventory in our warehouse. We've got this huge warehouse where we house maybe 70,000 pieces, um, and people are very used to that. So people, they often purchase enough just to place special orders instead of having that stock readily available. But that often deters people from purchasing because if someone sees something that they want right then and right there, they're more likely to purchase it from you right then and right there than they are to place a special order for you. So I would say maybe 2 out of 4 sales are lost by just
Mm.
not having the inventory readily there. So that's the largest thing that I would probably recommend. A lot of people, they'll buy one of each piece when they need to probably buy at least 2 or 3 for it to actually be seen on their sales floor, and for it to take up enough space for people to actually visually see it. A lot of the consumers are very visual people, so if they see something on a mannequin, even if it's, I've got to be honest, even if it's the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your entire life, you're going to have people try that on just because it's on a mannequin, and more than likely you're going to sell it. So that's one of the largest misconceptions is just visibility, having the stock there for your customer. And then another misconception is, sorry, another misconception is definitely that there's no one look that is universal across the US. Each region has their own special feature that they can sell. Like I've seen a lot of places in Louisiana that sell quite a bit of scuba for prom, whereas scuba is a mother's fabric for a majority of them. So it differs from area to area what's popular. So I did this myself where I said, you know what, I think people are overstretched sequin, and I told that to our designer, and she like was like, "You're crazy, no," and then she proved me wrong because it depends on the area. So that's the largest misconception is just that the stock isn't there. You've got to have the stock there, and if you're a salesperson, I can't say this for everyone, but if you ask me from our showroom, we have like thousands of pieces in here. Which are the 4 styles that you need to have like multiple of? I can show you those styles. And for a lot of people, they're just a dead no. And those people usually don't thrive. They're usually just staying afloat. So that that's usually the transition that once you make that change, you grow as a business. And yeah, I think the special ordering also might become more difficult with things that are currently going on.
Honestly, I agree with you 110%
Mhm.
on both the retail side as a bridal store owner and on the wholesale side as well. On the retail side, I realized it took me so long to kind of realize this. You have to have size runs on those hot dresses because we also have to look at the way customers are purchasing. Many of them are not planning ahead as they did in the past. So we have to make sure that we've got that inventory on hand to sell to them right then and there. Most
Mhm.
people are now in a situation where your customer wants to be able to see it, touch it, feel it, try it on, and take it home and
Mhm.
experience wearing that dress. So once I changed the way that I was buying, I did see a complete difference in the sales because most people do not want to have to wait for something. You know, we are in a culture where you order something in the morning and it arrives to your front door in the evening, and it's that instant gratification. So I think adjusting our retail store mindset, you know, with our buying to accommodate for that is really critical. And on the wholesale side of it, designing and selling wedding dresses, it's the same in bridal as well that it is in prom. Where if you don't have a size that someone needs and a wedding is coming up in 3 months, but it takes 6 to 8 months for delivery or sometimes more, then that creates a problem for the bride. It'll either increase her alteration bill because she'll have to either let the dress out or take it in and can't get the dress in her size. So I 110% agree with you. And I do think sometimes, I don't know if your retail customers verbalize this to you, but I know sometimes to me, the retail owners will verbalize to me, say, hey, I can't take on high minimums. Well, we don't typically have a minimum per se, but there is a quantity of dresses and a selection of your product mix that becomes really critical when it comes to servicing your customer. If you don't have a minimum in order to service that customer demand, then you do forego sales and they wind up leaving and going somewhere else. So I wholeheartedly agree with you with that. My next question has to do with your travel and, where you've been, who you've met. What celebrities can you say? I know that it typically becomes a little bit more of a private conversation, but that you can't publicly say, who you've dressed or who you've styled. But who can you share with us that you've had a really interesting, great, bad experience with in the celebrity world that you'd like to share with us?
Well, my most reoccurring client was Reba. And she's fantastic because she'll keep you in business forever. Even though I was just doing small little beadwork for hours and hours. And then I definitely had some fun times working with Casey Musgraves and Kelsey Ballerini, lots of country music people. And here at Giovanni, we just have so many on a regular basis that come in, and we have a fantastic PR team. Felicia works with them very often. But like you've seen our dresses on like Ashanti recently. You've seen it on all of the Real Housewives. We're omnipresent on the Real Housewives. We have songs by them. But it's definitely I had a very interesting experience with Tyra Banks recently. That was the one for the books, I think. So, but you're always just kind of seeing new people, and everybody always needs a gown, and people who need nice, expensive gowns usually come to us. They don't really go to other people often. So, but yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun.
Now, the public doesn't realize, I think, how the dresses wind up in our stores. So just wanted to kind of give a little bit of background about that. So we have what's called industry markets, where the designers will show their collections at these markets. The consumer does not come to that market. So it's the store owners that come to that market. They look at all the collections to determine what collections they're going to bring in for their product mix into their store. One of the markets that I do is the Chicago bridal market, which Jovani is there as well. And I love seeing you guys and going to dinner with you. And it's like an amazing experience. But are there any other markets aside from Chicago that are prevalent in the prom industry? And which ones are your favorite? Which ones do you enjoy the most?
Well, we definitely have quite a few markets that we go to. As far as prom specifically, the largest is in Atlanta. So, have you ever been to Atlanta Market?
Yes.
It is crazy. It is just crazy. There's
I
no
love
way
it.
around it. It is. We have the largest showroom in Atlanta as well. So, we're kind of where everyone's hub. So, people will go and they'll see other shows and they'll come back to Giovanni and come and eat in our cafe and things like that.
I
So,
think you have the most
um,
champagne.
we do. We have we have a margarita machine always on. So, and they're very strong. I recently found out. So, but usually Atlanta is our largest market just because we have a spot there all year round. And it's also when most new stores come. It's when we make our appointments for most of the people in the Southeast. We have also gone to Las Vegas. We found that Las Vegas market is kind of dwindling. But we've loved Chicago, and we also do smaller ones for bridal and also for evening, like the Essex House and Melange de Blanc, and there's always things going on in Fashion Week as well. But definitely Atlanta is the largest by far, and it's a blur. The whole Atlanta trip, all of us are completely dehydrated, and it's one very long day usually. So, and it's not from drinking alcohol, the dehydration. It's just not
super
from
duper
drinking
fun.
water.
It's super duper fun. I love
Yeah.
Atlanta. I absolutely have a great time there. And I love the Giovanni family and being a part of it. Um, one of my last questions for you has to do with working with people like me who are
Hmm.
on both sides of the industry, on the retailer side and on the wholesale side. So, how do you view that experience working with me? So, I'm a customer of yours, but I guess on the bridal side, I mean, you do bridal as well. It's not as prevalent, but you still do, you do couture bridal. Do you see people like me as competition? Does the company view that?
I definitely, that's a great question, honestly, because in some ways, in theory, I guess you would be considered competition. And we do have a few other retailers that we work with that are also, they have their own lines. So the way that we look at it, just the best way is that the more competition that we have, the more visibility that our market has. So in the end, it does grow our market by having more competition. Maybe people will purchase pieces from you guys that they would have ordinarily purchased from us. But at the end of the day, the more product visibility that's out there, the better it is for us. And especially if you guys also have a higher price point, that helps the customer to know that, you know what, this is the standard of pricing that I should be paying. And I shouldn't be offended by something being this price point from some other designers. So we think it's a good thing. But yeah, definitely, I could see how it could be potentially like, I don't know, should we sell to this person? But at the end of the day, we we're a business that likes to help other businesses. And we know that if you guys grow, we will also grow. So that's how we kind of create the family aesthetic that we like here at Giovanni.
And I also think just kind of analyzing the primary target market for our businesses, that can vary. So, although that there's that big macro market of customers that will wear a prom dress or wear a bridal dress, we've got a lot of target segments in those micro markets that we each will cater to. So,
Mhm.
the customer that you might cater to might be somebody a little bit different um, to what I'm catering to, or other manufacturers as well. So, I do think the size of our market definitely allows us to be able to have niches within that and be able to target that.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly how we view it too. So as long as and for us also our bridal specifically is very unique. It's a very specific person that would be buying that. So we understand completely that your bread and butter bridal more than likely will not be will not be coming from us necessarily, but we are more than happy to, showcase what we have and bring in those bridal event wear and things like that too. So, mhm.
And what's great is what I really love most about our relationship is if I have a customer that has a $10,000 budget or higher, I have the ability and the access to your couture showroom.
Mhm.
And I did bring a customer there in January. It was a wonderful experience. The selection was overwhelming. And this
Yes.
customer did walk away with two very expensive, beautiful pieces that arrived to our store custom for them. And the fit was unbelievable. I mean, the only thing we had to do really was a hem on the dress. And the other dress, we were doing some custom changes, and you got the fabric for us. Customer was thrilled, was really happy, even though she was spending, a sizable budget on these dresses for a competition. But that's one of the things as a retailer that has really set Giovanni apart for me, where through COVID, you guys stuck with us through the ups and downs with our industry, whether it's a tariff situation that's going on right now, or COVID, or anything else. The relationship becomes much deeper and more meaningful than simply just, I'm selling you dresses to resell, and you're coming to market, you're ordering a certain number of dresses from me, and that's the end of it. Where
Mm.
you come directly to our store for trunk shows. Our customers appreciate that. These are memorable moments for these customers that they keep coming back to us and still talking about when you were at our store in December.
I
So
still get DMs from your
do
customers.
you?
They send me pictures of them in the dresses. Yeah, I'll repost it. I love it, honestly. But we know that like at the end of the day, everyone is paying for their experience. So whereas they're coming to your store, they can maybe potentially purchase what they're purchasing online, but they're purchasing it with you because of the experience that they're having with you. So it's the same reason that that inventory needs to be there while they're there. And your customer that comes to New York to purchase a $10,000 custom gown, they're paying for the experience that you're providing for them, and they couldn't have that anywhere else. So that's what we're very well aware that it's the experience that what people are paying for. Yeah.
And what I'm realizing more and more is that human to human experience is something that our Gen Z population is really yearning for. They grew up with an online buying situation where they'll order something online, it shows up, in a box in the rain at their front door, and there's no service to it. There's nothing special that's separating that experience from another experience. So I'm finding that we're seeing more customers really looking for that human to human connection, where having a representative from the designer really is meaningful, and it's creating more brand loyalty for the brand. Above and beyond, obviously, all the merch that you guys give to
We
us. I
do
mean,
a lot of great
the
merch.
merch
Yeah.
is amazing. And it's so funny because I'll have like Gen X moms come in and be like, oh, I just came for the sweatshirt.
Oh, no way. I love that. I'm trying to, whenever you come here, I think you're coming in July. I'm trying to get on your swag bag for the hotel. We're trying to do a little labubu from Giovanni. If you don't know what that is, Google
Oh, that's
it.
great. That's great. Well, Matt, this has been a really great half hour, and I just love you to death. And
Oh, I love
not only
you.
as my rep, but as a person. And anytime that I message you and I need something, you quickly respond, even though I know you have hundreds of other people that are, trying to get a hold of you as well. And I really appreciate, all of the help in servicing our account and our customers, and it really is about the customer with Giovanni, and I see that, and we truly appreciate it from the whole staff, the whole team at Spy Baby Bridal in Syracuse. So have a
Oh,
really
well,
great
thank
day
you.
today in New York.
Thank
I
you
know
so
you said it was
much.
a little bit rainy today, but to me it's always sunny there. The showroom is always beautiful. You've got
We'll bring out
multiple
the sunshine.
floors. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And we'll
Well,
be seeing
thank
you.
you.
Let's see. So I'll be seeing you in July for the big
Mhm.
event that you're having for us stores to view the new 2026 collections that are already out. Can you
Mhm.
believe it? I think I just sold my last prom dress yesterday because we've got proms
Ah,
this weekend still, but you've already got the 26s out. And so we'll have a
yeah.
little jump on that in the Syracuse area for our customers. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, you're gonna get some unique one of a kind pieces as well. And then also, yeah, you'll have 2026 before anybody else in your area. So I'm very excited for that for you guys. And I can't wait to see you when you come in July. We're gonna have a blast. We have the private boat, so I'm excited for that too. So
Oh, wonderful. This is nice to know.
yeah, private boat. We're gonna view the Statue of Liberty while eating dinner and drinking and dancing. So get excited.
Amazing. I'm so looking forward to it. And I so need my mat time. There's always
Yes.
that mat time. I know when I need my mat.
Just a good hug. Just a good hug.
Well,
Oh, well,
thanks so
thank you
much.
so
And
much.
we will be seeing you again soon. So, signing off, everybody.
Oh,
And we are going to thank Matt Sutherland, sales rep for Giovanni Fashions in New York City. I'm Marie Adornato from Because Marie Said So. Welcome back to Because Marie Said So. I'm Marie Adornato, where we talk all things bridal, business, and everything in between. I would love to welcome our guest today, a very special guest, Larissa Nichols. Larissa is actually an engaged bride, and we are going to be discussing her planning. We're going to be discussing a little bit about the shopping for Gen Z and what they value, how they want to shop, how they want to be addressed. And so we're going to get right into it, Larissa. So share with me a little bit about when did you get engaged? Tell me about the engagement and all of that.
Yeah, so I got engaged in July. My partner and I, Ethan, have been together for 5 years now. We met my freshman year of high school, and then have been together post. He just graduated from college, so we're taking new life steps together. We're closing on our first house, hopefully on August 1st.
Oh, exciting.
Yes, so we're very excited for that. Yeah, I mean, we picked out my ring together, which is very unconventional, I feel, for most brides these days. They want it to be a complete surprise. You know, I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and so when we were there on vacation, we were like, let's go take a look around. So popped in, trying different things on, and we found the one that I loved, and so that was a really wonderful surprise for the day, and I liked being a part of that process.
Oh, amazing. So I invited you on because you will have an interesting perspective for me. And as Gen Z, you know, I've been in business 30 years.
Mhm.
So I have, you know, serviced millennials. I've serviced Gen X. I've
Yeah.
serviced. So we now are servicing Gen Z customers after all this time.
Yeah.
And I'm also a professor, so I do have Gen Z students.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they dealt with a lot with COVID, as you
Mhm.
did. And so it's interesting for us to learn as retailers, how do Gen Z typically like to be serviced when purchasing products?
Yeah.
Is there something special, different, unique that you feel for yourself in shopping for a bridal gown or anything that you expect when you walk into a retail store?
Yeah. So I feel like my perspective on this is very versatile, having been a consultant, but also being a part of the newer generation that's coming up and getting married. Very versed in social media, I would say, is really the biggest thing. We all want our weddings to look like these big, grandiose Pinterest boards that we're seeing in the media now, which is wonderful, but it also destroys the realism, I would say. So we have this perception that luxury, right? We want to come in and we want to be serviced and addressed like we're adults after having been children for so long. And especially for me, I'm on the younger edge. I am not even 21 yet. I am getting married and taking these big life choices, and I want to be treated as such, and capable of making those decisions for myself on behalf of my partner and I. So I would say coming into a store, you know, we want to be treated with respect, and we also, you know, very deeply want to be serviced and shown all of the options, and feel really heard. I would say the biggest turnoff for me as a customer, having also been a consultant, are pushy consultants. And that was something that I had felt very deeply after having shopped at X amount of places and finding my dress. My dress was the first thing I wanted to get done, because I am aware of the timeline that it takes for these manufacturers to push out a product that I'm searching for. I want high-end, you know, materials. I want well-structured dresses, and the style really varies from person to person. I would say that my generation too tends to lean into the artsier styles, where for me, I thought I was going to like that too, and then surprised myself when I picked out a more simple gown than I had originally been anticipating. So yeah, I would say that's really the biggest thing. And in my shopping experience was really hard, because I had seen so many amazing things, including your work and work of many manufacturers, the big ones that we're seeing, you know, at Kleinfeld's. Everybody wants to walk in and have that Kleinfeld say yes to the dress experience, which isn't real. You know, it can be, but it's not common that you're seeing all of this high-end stock with 50,000 dresses to choose from in a store. It's overwhelming. And I would say that's the biggest piece of that experience, is how overwhelming that can be. So people don't tend to anticipate that when they're originally walking into a store, and then it kind of hits after you've seen it a few times and you're like, okay.
So I just brought in Matt from Jovani, and they do, you know, prom and bridal. And we were discussing what like the recent trends are and what they're seeing in bridal. And they're seeing a lot of more classic, cleaner styles. When you were shopping, were you looking for that, or what were you looking for? And then what surprised you about what you liked and what you didn't like?
Yeah. So when I went in, a designer that I was really fond of, Gen Z loves to look online. I would say that's really the biggest thing. We love to see all of the options, create our Pinterest boards, and then go from there. What I had envisioned for myself for so long was a fitted dress. As I had communicated with you, I'm like, I love beading. I like floral. I don't like the heavy beading though. It's very pinpointed taste, especially, like I said, for me, having seen so much, got to narrow it down. When I was going into the stores and shopping, I discovered that I wasn't loving mesh materials. I didn't like a ton of coverage. For me, I'm getting married in June of next year. So I didn't want to feel all of those extra textures necessarily touching my skin.
Right.
But I had been trying on in this one box that I had almost pigeonholed myself into, of like, I really want the fitted dress, sweetheart neckline, beading. And that was all I had been trying on. And I wasn't wowed by anything, truthfully. And I had gone from price points of like $500 up to $6,000 just trying to find something that I had that feeling for. And even now, after having my dress, I don't think I ever had that feeling that is so widely televised. What I ended up trying, and it was a very like last minute split second decision. I had just gotten home from an event in Buffalo. My mom and I, like the morning of, we were like, do you want to go to New York City today? And so that's what we did. And I had been loving Allison Webb's line of bridal. It's very simple. It's based in Georgia for her designers, you know, but then she does a lot of work in New York City too. So it was the perfect melding for me of all of the cultures and the things that I liked. And so that's what I had set my heart on. Well, they're being discontinued because of their manufacturer, right? So
Gotcha.
JLM Couture no longer exists.
Yes.
So Lazaro and Allison Webb can't get them anymore. So the store that I had gone to just a smaller bridal boutique up in the city. And what I had been trying on, I was like, let's give A-line a shot. Let's try some ball gowns. Like, let's just throw some wild cards in that I didn't think I was going to love. And I ended up really being surprised by how much I liked the structure.
Many times it's the wild card.
Yes.
Many times.
100%.
In 30 years, I will tell you, I've pulled wild cards for people. I'm like, you know what? I just got it. Just give it a shot. And 8 times out of 10, I would say it winds up being the dress.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, that's such an interesting viewpoint too, where you really do have to keep your mind open.
Yes.
And for you, it was a little more unique because you are a model, you are a performer, you're a dancer. That's your career pretty much right now. And it's harder for you because you've had an opportunity to wear and to model the most awesome, outrageous, expensive dresses, outfits. So how do you now take a look at ordering, something for bridal that you haven't seen before?
Exactly. And I would say too, every bride wants the dress that feels like them. They want it to feel like it was made for them, and it's the fairy tale. And every little girl grows up dreaming of what her wedding dress will look like, I would say, for the most part. And so when I was searching, I was looking for a dress that would give me that feeling, the tears in your eyes, oh my gosh, I'm saying yes to the dress moment. And I never really had that. I was so focused on making the right decision.
Right.
Instead of the decision that I guided myself into. You know what I mean?
Well, the other thing too, a lot of this podcast is about various identities that we all have in our lives. And it's not that we're different personalities. We're the same personality, but we have different identities in different parts of our lives. How do you mesh all that together and come up with one piece that's going to represent all of those identities and your personality, who you are?
Exactly.
So that becomes, what I've seen, definitely a really difficult thing for brides. So my recommendation is keep your mind open. If there's a part of one dress, you like the bust of one, the bottom of another, then seek custom if that's the case. But for someone like you, that's the same thing. So you have these, you're teaching children dance. You're a business person, you're a model. So you have all these identities that you're putting together. Although it's one personality, the identities become, difficult to kind of mesh into one dress, I think.
Exactly. And I would also say too, having modeled and, like I said, feeling like in person, feeling these beautiful gowns, the top of the top line from, like, I modeled for Giovanni in Fashion Week. I've walked for you and done many of your pieces as well. And seeing, even Waters and Essence and all of the very popular brands that we see now, including like Pronovius was another one that I was like, these are stunning. It's hard to not feel overwhelmed by, well, I like this piece from this, and I like this piece from this, and I want to combine them. But you also want to be able to feel and touch that product in person.
Yeah.
And I would say, from my perspective, regardless of how much I trust somebody, I want to be able to see it for myself.
Some people are like that, where, you really have to be open to the creative process and trust the designer if you're not going to be able to try it on before you purchase the finished product. So custom isn't for everybody. Yeah. And it's a wonderful solution if you're trying to pull pieces together, but it isn't necessarily for everyone. And I understand that, because we've dealt with thousands of customers in 30 years, and some people are like, Marie, just design it. Tell me what it's going to look good on me. And that's it. And then, oh, okay, well, great. Let me do my job, but I'll do it,
Absolutely.
But there's other people that are like, I really want to see it, touch it, feel it, try it on. And actually, I kind of like to take it home today if I can.
Yeah.
And so a lot of customers will say, oh, well, do you sell off the rack? And it's almost like a surprise that we do, because we're so trained in this industry as owners to not sell that dress off the rack, because then it takes another 6 months to get another one.
Exactly.
So I was just, we had Jovani on, we had Matt on, and we were talking about making sure that you have inventory.
Yeah.
So that if you have a bride, let's say, that is your size, I mean, you're a small size, and it's just as hard for you to find something that will fit you as it is for someone who's plus size. Many people will just focus on, oh, you don't have enough plus size in a store, but they won't focus on, you don't have any size 2s and 4s.
Yes.
And we typically will have the smaller sizes because we do use those for photo shoots and fashion shows and whatnot. So we have an advantage in that way. But a lot of stores will stick with that size 10.
It's 10,
that
12,
size
and
12.
14.
And because they do run a little small, which we get, I understand that. But I do think sometimes for smaller people in that size 0 to 4 range, they have just as hard of a time. Yeah. Because they're swimming in a dress that's a size 10, 12, or 14, and it's hard for them to see it even though you're clipping it.
And I will say that in my experience, that's the part that takes the most imagination, is taking apart and taking a gown that's in front of you that's maybe, a lot of the ones I was trying on were size 14. I wear like a 0. Yeah. Like a 0-2 somewhere in there, and clipping the dress, anything that has that deep cut plunge neckline, or even a sweetheart, it's super wide. And so clipping it destroys the neckline that you have in your mind. So you have to use your imagination there. And sometimes on some pieces, it's a lot easier, and some it's impossible. And you just have to have the trust based off of the models that you can see online versus the manufacturer and your consultant, having that trust that they're not going to steer you in the wrong direction.
Exactly.
And even in having been a bridal consultant and consulting with these brides, kind of going back to the custom pieces, you have a lot that come in wanting custom, specifically from Adornato Couture. And it's great because I've had brides where they're like, I like the bodice of this dress, I like the material and the skirt of this dress. I remember very specifically one bride who took 2 night and day pieces and put them together to create the most beautiful piece I've ever seen. And I appreciated her trust in me and in you in guiding her in that right direction.
And those magical experiences is what we're looking for, regardless of where you're shopping or where you're buying. You want to be not just valued, but you want to feel like your legacy in that store. I want to change gears a little bit and talk a little bit about the planning process with other vendors and with your fiance. What is most important between the two of you? Like, does he allow you to make decisions and then you allow him, or do you do everything together? And how do you view the finances? How are you doing the budgeting? And money many times can be very uncomfortable to talk about, but it needs to become more comfortable just because it's so important when you're planning such a big event like this.
Yes, absolutely. I would say my position, I'm very blessed to have parents who want to help and want to be involved, both from a financial standpoint and from a planning perspective. My mom, I'm her only daughter. She has myself and my younger brother. My mom has been an absolute trooper throughout all of this. She gets things done before I've even had the chance to look at them. And I love that because, like I said, this process can be very overwhelming very quickly. And especially for me as somebody who has a very busy and hectic all over the place schedule, it's hard to have that time to sit down and be like, here's what we're going to do. My Ethan, my fiance, he has been really just relaxed. He's very supportive, and that really is just who he is as a person and as a partner. There are things that he likes to take the reins on, but in terms of this, he wants to know about it and he wants to take a look, but he's going to support any decision that I make. And like I said, financially, it's primarily my mom who's driving that boat. I feel like everybody around me was expecting me to be a bridezilla. Like, just, I very much want like the most expensive thing off the rack. But like, I'm very uncomfortable with spending money, whether it's my own or my mother's or my parents or my dad's or Ethan's. Like, I'm uncomfortable with that. And it's not because I've been guided to feel that way. It's just, that's who I am as a person. I want to keep everybody around me happy and keep everything, no points of contention in that conversation. Our budgeting process, like I said, has been primarily driven by my mom. But when I first got engaged, we were like, we have a year until the wedding. We have actually 2 years. We're coming up on 1 year out from the wedding now. So let's just give it time. Investing in stocks is a great way to create that money while sitting still and, just watching the markets. And unfortunately, the markets aren't stellar right now, but they could be worse. My dad's pretty good at managing through them all. But my mom had me sit down and she was like, what are your priorities? Like, if pick your top 3, if there's other things that we have to cut later down the line, then that's what we'll do. But like, what are the 3 most important things that like, we're not going to skimp on? And for me, that was my dress, selfishly, was my dress, the photography and the videography, and the venue. Those were my priorities. And then like anything else, don't care.
And I would say those typically are the main priorities, right? When we get brides that come into our store, typically that's kind of, they've just figured out where the venue is going to be. And some of them have chosen the photographer, but some not. The venue, I think, seems to be definitely the top priority. From what I can tell. And then they move on to the dress because you can't really kind of figure out what style is going to look good in that venue unless you know what that venue 100%, is.
Yes.
So recently I just came across this really unique article, and it was an article named Why Credit Cards Give Gen Z the Ick. First of all, being Gen Z, what the heck is ick?
Oh my goodness. Don't make me laugh. My allergies will act up. The ick is something, it's coined from TikTok. As I'm sure many
I'm Gen X, so I don't know.
No, you're fine. It's coined from TikTok. Typically we use it to describe like relationships typically revolving around a man, coming from women, is like, when a guy, I don't know, like doesn't hold the door for you and like walks in front of you and is like, are you coming with me? It's like, ew, that gave me the ick. You know what I mean?
I see.
When they do something cringeworthy, which I guess.
So apparently credit cards are doing that.
I suppose.
The article really talks more about the fact that debit cards are really the way that Gen Z is using as a form of payment, what they prefer. Just looking at some of the statistics in this article, debit cards are the #1 way to pay for Gen Z and millennials as well. That's the #1 way to pay right now. 46% of Gen Z will abandon checkout if their preferred form of payment is not available. So what other preferred forms of payment are there? I know that buy now, pay later options have become very popular. For weddings, have you used anything like that? And are you seeing that that's more favorable for you?
So a lot of vendors, actually, what we're discovering, they won't take a credit card. You have to pay cash.
Oh, interesting.
Down as at least as your deposit.
Interesting.
So like for our venue, that was cash. For our band, that was cash. For our photography, that's the only thing that we could put on a credit card, thank goodness. But that, in terms of like the wedding business, I don't think people know how much weddings cost these days. I know that I sure as heck didn't when I was first getting into it. So that was a fun surprise. You know, you go in with $20,000 will do it. No way. That's a whole like down payment on a house that you could be using for a wedding. So once again, it comes back to picking your priorities. But if we're talking about credit cards, I would say a lot of my generation is almost learning from the previous generations in terms of like credit card debt. And we've been talked to so much about how dangerous and scary these little pieces of plastic are. And so we're hesitant to use them, you know, because we don't want to mess ourselves over in life down the line. So, you know, when we know that we have the cash and we know that we're working hard, it's easier to just pay with cash than put it on a card and pay it back later, especially because, you know, at least when I got my first credit card, like I wasn't even eligible. They told me no. And I'm like, well, how do you build credit if you can't get a card? And I make as much money as anybody my age possibly could. I'm working, you know, 70 hours a week between all the things that I do.
Right.
If you know that I'm going to be reliable, I can't prove to you that I'm going to be reliable based off of the tools that I've been provided.
Right.
You know, so going back to talking about credit cards and kind of all of that, the biggest thing is it really doesn't matter to us because we can't apply for the cards that pay for points. You know, we can't apply for the cards that give us cash back. It's just another way to spend money and then have to pay it back later and then see the way that those charges rack up. And they rack up fast, you know.
Now, do you think that if these venues did accept credit cards for down payments and wedding vendors did accept credit cards, it surprises me that they don't, first of all, because as a bridal store, I mean, we take just about every form of payment under the sun, short of taking your gold tooth. So, and I'll take that too now. But it's just surprising to me that they don't. Would you steer away from a vendor if you didn't have the availability to pay the way you wanted to pay?
I would say it depends on the vendor, truthfully. And like I said, it depends where it falls in the list of my priorities and how many other options there are. You know, originally we had been intending to get married in New York. That was a big thing. And we're looking at all of these beautiful venues. But, you know, they're requesting a down payment of $20,000 just to hold the date for you. That's non-refundable, non-returnable in cash. So we ended up choosing a venue in Atlanta where it's a little bit more manageable for the same level of quality that the venue is providing with actually more services. So it's really about looking and deep diving in. And it, like I said, it really depends.
And really not getting too wholehearted about one specific venue, because if you do run into a situation where they're not as flexible with the form of payment, that could become a problem.
100%. And that's another thing too, is like, you know, talking through with whoever their like representative is of like, what are all the options? You know, we like to have options as a generation. I like to have options and have plan Bs. If plan A doesn't work out, I want to have something else that I can turn to. And so, you know, when we were looking at venues, I would say to my mom, I'm like, here's my top 3 of what I hope for. Let's reach out to them and send the feelers out.
Right.
And see what they come back with in terms of what their package includes. So yeah, I would say I don't get turned off to a venue because they don't accept a specific form of payment. But I also am in a different situation where I have help from well-established adults where I don't have to be afraid of those kinds of things, as long as they aren't, you know.
And I'm happy we're doing this interview, because when I read an article, it just actually came out yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm shown these statistics. 28% of Americans view credit cards more negatively than a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
They are seeking more transparent methods of payment, not just in this industry, but in every industry.
Yes.
Credit cards have become negatively looked upon. And we've seen just in the last 6 months, I would say, and you can tell me if you've seen this, more ads online for like Afterpay and Affirm and PayPal. And you can see online many times when you go to check out that option, even if you're buying airline tickets, you've got your credit card options, but then you also have other options as well.
Yes.
Buy now, pay later options, whether it's PayPal or whether it's directly through the company that you're buying from. And I see for weddings that this really will become an opportunity for brides now to be able to have that dream dress today.
Yes.
And buy it now, pay later, be able to do their custom order right now. Because many people don't realize it's now taking like 8 to 10 months for delivery on a custom piece. And, you know, by the time you're done with the design, the production, and then the alterations, you know, they don't realize I have to have that money now to be able to place that order. So what I've had many brides do right at the counter, they go right on Afterpay or Affirm, and you can get a digital credit card. I had no idea this even existed. And they would go ahead and get approved for that $2,500 dress, let's say. They would give us the virtual card, which we could run right through our system, and they can get their dress order placed. And then they can basically select the terms. Even on the high side of the rate that they're paying is like 15.99. Well, these cards now, some of them, the credit cards are anywhere from like 22, 23% up to almost 30%.
The interest has gotten ridiculous. And that's another big fear that my generation has, is accumulating interest and being really nervous to have any sort of debt. And I know, especially for my partner, obviously we're not having cards that like have a $30,000 limit on it where it's going to be ridiculous. I'm talking like 1 or 2. But even still, that accumulating over time, that's why people want to avoid it. And that's why it's so much
well, that's
easier
adding another, let's say 20% onto the cost of your wedding.
100%. Yes.
So, but if those top 3 priority things in the beginning, the venue, the dress, and the photographer, are things that you need to book right away so that you've got it booked and that date is all set, because let's face it, for photographers, how many weddings can they do in one weekend?
Oh, 100%.
So if you want a specific photographer to shoot you and they're available, you need to make sure you can get that deposit down.
Yes.
So this does give customers an opportunity. So we've, in our own store, now been sharing this information with our brides, and it gives them flexibility to choose which buy now, pay later option works for them. If they don't want to use the traditional credit card with points or miles or whatever, where in the past, we've seen most people resorting to those cards because they're getting cash back. They're getting points towards items or goods. They're getting airline miles. So those are valuable things. But for some people, it's actually more valuable to save on the rate. So that's why they're going to this buy now, pay later. So I felt that this article was so mind opening for me, because recently this is what we had already done to try to promote this, to help people. Now that we're seeing, you know, this economic environment of being a little challenging for people and uncertain. The uncertainty is really, from what I can see, is causing consumers in general to kind of hold back with their purchases, where they might not necessarily be short the funds. They're just afraid to let go of those funds because of the uncertainty.
I would say that is the nail on the head right there. You know, when I was doing a lot of consulting as like my full-time job, a lot of brides would walk right out the door because they're like, I have to have cash today. And we're like, yeah. And then they, you know, don't want to pay any credit card fees.
Exactly.
And so they're like, well, I can't go to an ATM and withdraw, you know, X amount of money.
Right.
And it's understandable. I mean, I feel like any person is like, ooh, I wasn't quite ready for that.
You want to
one
be
today.
prepared. And
Yeah.
I think too, as far as the shopping experience goes, when you were shopping, did you have the mindset, if I find it today, I'm buying it today? Or do you have the mindset of let's wait 72 hours? That's one of the kind of rules that's out there on social media. Wait sleep on it. We actually did a really fun TikTok on sleeping on it.
I was like, yes, thank you. Come on, social media
It
masters.
was so fun. It was so fun. And we had Bella was in the dress, and you know, she opens up her eyes and says, "Geez, I want it." You know what I mean?
Love her.
So it was really great. But when you were shopping, did you find that in your mind, psychologically, you were saying, if I find it, I'm getting it, or I'm, no matter what happens, I'm waiting that 72 hours?
Yes. So like I said, my perspective on that entire process is different because I have been a consultant, and I know that can be, I'm a people pleaser with like chronic anxiety over those kinds of things. So I don't want to walk out leaving my consultant feeling like they just put forth, you know, 3 hours worth of their time and their effort for me to not buy. And, you know, a tip is great, but still you also want to credit the store for giving you that time slot and not being a waste of time.
Right.
And I would also say, when, you know, the day that I purchased my dress, I went with the hope of like, I'm going to find it. I was prepared to do either one. Truthfully, I was prepared to do either one. And I really just kind of looked at my mom and I was like, is this it? And she was like, that's it. I'm like, okay, then I feel good. I think in a lot of situations, there was one dress in particular that I was fully convinced was my dress. I'm sure Carol told you all about it, but it was this beautiful Pronovius gown. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. It meets all of my boxes. It was the fitted, like exactly what I thought I was going to want and had my heart set on. It was actually the first dress I added to my Pinterest board when I got engaged. And we left the store empty-handed, having not purchased anything. You know, I only took an hour of their time, so I guess I didn't feel quite as like pitted and like, oh, I have to make a choice. But I went home and I was like, we're going to think about it. We're going to talk to, you know, my dad. I also started dress shopping really early. So I didn't have the pressure on me to make a choice. And I did that intentionally because I wanted to have the opportunity to try things on and see how different things felt on my body and with my personality. And I walked away from it after, you know, showing it to a couple of people. That's the key here to everybody. Don't show anybody. Don't get anybody's opinion. Don't
keep
ask
it on the
anyone.
DL, as we say.
Yes, keep it fully on the DL. And, you know, like I said, I take people's opinions really seriously, and I want everybody to be happy and pleased with my decision, so much to the point where at times I let my personal feelings go. And that's something we're working on. But with my dress, I was like, okay, this checks the boxes for what I want. This is what my mom had envisioned. This is what, you know, my future mother-in-law was talking about that she loved so much. It's a merriment of the two things that I enjoy most and the styles that I like. It suits the venue that we chose much better. And we went out to lunch. I walked out of the store. I was like, we went out to lunch. My mom and I took a walk around Bryant Park. And we're like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's go through the pictures. Take lots of pictures, by the way, when you're dress shopping. Some stores don't let you take pictures.
Many don't, just because the designers don't allow them to.
Yeah.
I think pictures can be good and it can also be bad because it depends on the lighting. Your hair and makeup isn't done the way it's going to be. The dress isn't fitting the same way it's going to be on the day of your wedding. It sometimes can be risky to do that.
Sure.
Although I do encourage people to take pictures because I want them to be able to compare what they've seen, at least within our own location.
Yes.
And so I do encourage it, but I know some stores don't, simply because the designers don't allow it.
Yeah. For me, that was the most helpful tool because after having so many things swirling through my brain, it was nice to be able to look back and decipher like what I liked best versus what I didn't. And I Fortunately am not one of those people where like I look at a photo and I'm like, oh my God, my hair, or oh
Good.
my gosh, like this is the way that like I was standing. Why was I standing like that? I am very good at separating myself from the clothing, if that makes sense. And I truly think that that's a lot of my modeling, looking at the garment instead of looking at the person. When doing shoots and things like that, you know, is it wrinkled? Am I slouching? What's the body position? Am I properly representing the designer the way that they have enlisted me to do? You know, so after my mom and I had tried on, I think I tried maybe 4 or 5 dresses on. I was fortunate enough that they had the other style that I had fallen in love with in a store in Rochester. I got to compare the two. I got opinions from the consultants, and I was like, okay. After a lot of anxiety and very overwhelming feelings, it was like, okay, this is it. They also, which stores tend to do this, they'll offer you, you know, discounts at the last second. They're like, but it's only for today.
Right.
And that puts the pressure on. And I know that trick as a consultant. I know that that's what they do.
Well, typically what will happen is, you know, if it's the one thing that's kind of holding you back, it sometimes is the price of the dress.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can just be that one thing, that one promotion that just makes you say, you know what, I don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
And I've tried on 50 dresses. The experience needs to finally come full circle.
Yeah.
Because I do think you can get into a situation where you just become numb to everything you're trying on. And you want to come out and hit it on a high note.
Yeah.
Once you're on that high note, you're loving the gown. My recommendation is pull the trigger. Because the moment that you walk away from that high note, all of a sudden everything then just starts to just descend pretty fast as far as the experience and the feeling and the momentum. You know, when you have your whole family there, you're having this wonderful day with them. Really, that's what this is all about.
Yes.
The dress is just the vehicle that gets you to this amazing moment.
Yes.
It's that one moment with your family, your friends, and yourself.
Yeah.
That where you can say, you know, this is what I want. Mm-hmm. And although that you have all these great opinions, at the end of the day, you've got to feel it. You've got to, that first second when you look in the mirror and go, damn, I look good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Damn, I could see myself that day wearing this dress.
Absolutely.
You know, so one of the reasons that I wanted to bring on an actual bride was to just get your opinions, your feedback, pick your brain on what's changed in shopping, what things can we do better? How do we elevate experiences? And one of the things that we do at Spy Baby is once someone makes an appointment, we have Anna, who is responsible for contacting the bride. Mm-hmm. She creates a custom invitation. So the bride can now send that to family members that she wants at the appointment. Mm-hmm. And it becomes more of an event.
Yes.
Like a birthday invitation, like you're invited to this special event.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that we've been doing. And we also share with the bride everything they need to know about that appointment.
Yes.
Bring slippers because we're going to ask you to take your shoes off. We keep the floors nice and clean, to keep the hemlines nice and clean.
Yes.
Because the dresses you're trying on will inevitably be someone else's bridal dress that they are wearing up the aisle.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. And just kind of talk about what their expectation is, you know, who they're going to have with them. If there's any sort of like special things that we need to know, you know, do we need to know, is it someone's birthday? Is there something going on in the background where, you know, maybe there was a recent death in the family or something like that.
Yeah.
So we get to know the customer well ahead of time so that we know, first of all, they'll give us pictures of dresses that they like, so we'll know what to pull ahead of time. Second of all, so that we can pair the right consultant with the group. Do you feel that in your experiences, pairing the right consultant personality, the right stylist with your group, have there been situations where you're like, gee, maybe this wasn't the right stylist for my appointment?
Yes, and no. I feel very mixed reviews. For me personally, I always go into an appointment or when I'm meeting with, you know, anybody who is servicing me and trying to make me feel special with the utmost kindness and respect. And that is just who I am as a person. And I would say most people on average are like that, but also some people come in with guns blazing and they're feeling really passionately about things. And that is where, you know, both myself as a consultant, as a bride, can feel that disconnect, where that can turn the appointment on its head, and then you have to have somebody else come in and help out. In my experience, for me, something that helped was I appreciated when my consultants looked the part, when they were well dressed, when they were well spoken, when they were attentive. You know, anything that anybody would ask for. You know, having a consultant wearing jeans and a crop top as you're trying to pick out the most important piece of your day, for a lot of these brides, is not always what they envision. They want somebody who's dressed in business wear, or somebody that they can even look up to for like makeup and hair and trust their advice and opinion. You know, when you have a consultant, and I'm not saying that this is like a real legitimate experience, but more of an example, a consultant whose hair is a mess and maybe all sorts of fun colors, that's great, but sometimes that's not for every bride. That's not what every bride is going to look up to and trust for stylistic advice. So that I would say is probably the biggest, like, you know, making sure you're well groomed and dressing accordingly.
And I do think some stores might not be the right store for particular brides.
Yes.
So what one bride values will be different from what other brides
100%,
value.
yes.
So, you know, that's kind of something that I'm finding out as well, even over this 30 years, that we do things in a very organized fashion. We don't let you paw through everything and rip dresses apart. And we don't like to have big groups with kids manhandling everything. There are some stores that maybe love that. They're, you know, welcome that.
Family-friendly environment.
And we're family friendly, but, you know, we're a little bit more organized in a way where we like to keep your thought process focused on you.
Yes.
Where it's easy for the focus to now turn on other people that are in the party because of, you know, distractions.
Calm and relaxed environments is the best for shopping, and especially making big decisions. It's a big decision. It's a lot of money, and it's something that you're going to look back on for the rest of your life, and likely for future generations too. So, you know, a lot of the times I remember when we would have like 4 kids come into an appointment and they're little. They want to run around the store. They want to play with like the sparkly things. And while that's wonderful, now the bride is focused on whatever activity is going on up where our sales floor is, versus where we're trying to keep the attention centered on them.
Right.
You know, so it's a tough balance, because not only do you want to be accommodating, but you also have to be direct with how you feel, and knowing and using your expertise to help guide the bride towards the most magical experience possible for her special day.
So as we kind of wrap this up, let's together figure out what would be the tips that we give to brides to prepare to make their appointment the most memorable, the most special, efficient, and successful appointment, where they just have to say yes, right?
Yeah.
What's going to make it the best possible experience for them? So the first thing that I would probably say is have an open mind.
Yes. That was the first one that came to my brain as well. Being open-minded and willing to try things on, and trusting your consultant, I think, is really the key to that makes that all flow. Is you have to have the trust.
That synergy.
Yes. I would also add to having proper undergarments. We have a lot of brides who will come in.
Oh gosh, I didn't even remember that one, and I should.
No, you're fine. It's all good. But I remember that so vividly, because especially for me as a model, when you walk into a casting call, you should have your pasties or your strapless bra, any shapewear that you need or want to wear. Seamless underwear is a stellar.
Well, it definitely allows the dresses to go on and off a little easier. What I have found is when you've got like a thong underwear, that places things in the wrong areas, and it's hard to zip sometimes. It's just a difficult because you've got nothing holding you in that's going to allow you to easy access the zipper up and down.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that in all of these years that's one of the things that I deter people from doing is wearing those, because the fabric on the undergarment is going to push in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
And say you're going to get a line in the wrong spot, let's say.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We want everything to be nice and smooth, and we want it to be easy to take the dress
I can
on and
also
off.
see too where that could vary person to person. For myself, that's not an issue that I've ever run into, but I could also see, character performance, for example. That's another one of my many box of tricks. But we wear, basically like bike shorts, but they're super high rise and they come up to right under the bust line. Those help the gowns go right up because you can press in and make sure that it's also sanitary purposes as well. These gowns are typically ivory or white.
Right.
You don't want to get any sweats, any oils, self-tanners. Don't self-tan before
don't
your
self-tan.
appointment, please. We all are just like, don't self-tan before your appointment, protecting those garments as well as yourself in that process as well.
Right. And, a lot of times the gowns now have really good construction in the bust.
Yes.
So I don't feel it necessary for the customer to bring an extra bra.
100%.
You don't want that extra underneath.
Always advise against it.
Shifts the style sometimes. Yes. And we can add cups, but typically you're going to have cup, you're going to have some boning construction. And so that will make it a lot easier when trying things on. What else can we recommend in preparing for the appointment?
Do your makeup and your hair. However,
that's a good idea.
Feel most beautiful. That for me, when I was shopping, was a really big deal because I'm somebody who likes to be really put together and do my hair and do my makeup, and I feel confident in my ability to do so. A lot of brides
see yourself that day,
yes, you want to be able to see yourself the way that you can hopefully envision yourself on the day when you're going to wear that gown for its intended purpose. I would see a lot of brides come in and pick themselves apart in the mirror.
Ugh.
And I'm like, first of all, don't. Your hair isn't done. You have it in a messy bun right now. You don't have your makeup done. You're not looking remotely how you're going to look when you're in this dress. And not only do you look beautiful now, but imagine how beautiful you're going to be when you are feeling your best too. Before you even step foot into the store, feel your best.
And I also think bring your tribe that's truly your tribe.
Yes, your support system.
Bring your support system that's going to really support you.
100%.
And not be like, oh, I don't like the way your stomach looks in that. I don't like the way your butt looks in that.
Moms. Moms drive me crazy. They do it with the best of intention, but they're always like, you could look a little thinner here, or you don't have enough support here, or
that makes it a little hard. Yeah.
And the second you start attacking somebody's body, something that they cannot change, their brain is
the
in
mood.
A different
you go
universe.
From this mood from a high note to a low note pretty darn fast.
And we as women are already very good at picking ourselves apart. We don't need another voice confirming any self underlying issues. So just even to the support system, just be kind and be positive and let the bride speak first is another really big thing. When you chime in with 50 opinions all at once, not only is the bride now feeling overwhelmed, if they're a people pleaser, they're going to agree with whatever you say. And we as the consultants want to hear what the bride has to say, because it's not about the guests, it's about the bride and her experience.
And a good stylist, I think, is going to
mitigate that.
Absolutely. They're going to allow the bride to see herself first.
Yeah.
And maybe talk about some of the features of the dress itself.
Yes.
It's this, explain what the fabric is and what's, if it's
the highlight.
If it's a corset back, explain this is really great for flexibility in making it tight or loose or whatever, making you comfortable. So a great stylist is going to be able to do that for you. One of the other things that I recommend on a group level is bring comfortable shoes, right? So you're going to typically have to remove your shoes upon entry everywhere you go, and make sure that you're comfortable.
Yes.
Plan ahead time-wise. If it's the summertime and there's a lot of traffic, because if you show up 15 minutes late and you only have an hour and a half or 2 hours for your appointment, there already now creates anxiety for the bride.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that if everybody's coming from different directions in different vehicles, that the bride is comfortable. Everybody is there in a
100%.
timely fashion.
Yes.
And you have time to use a restroom. You have time to kind of figure out the
Take
lay
a
of the
breath.
land, you know? That's typically what we'll do is we'll let people kind of figure out the lay of the land, use the restroom. They fill out some information. They become familiar with their stylist, which usually they'll already know ahead of time because we've already kind of discussed. We've had some discussions ahead of time as to style that they like.
Yeah.
And then a collection of dresses is curated beforehand. Is there anything else that you would like to add regarding the shopping experience since you're the one doing it right now?
Yeah, I would say too, for me, I always brought a clean pair of shoes as well because a lot of brides want to be able, regardless of whether the dress is going to be hemmed or not, it just makes them feel better.
Yes.
So, you know, while we tend to say as consultants, you don't have to get your shoes until after the wedding, just find a pair of shoes that makes you feel happy and makes you feel confident and you feel put together and dressed. For me, like I said, as a model, I always have my runway shoes, right? I'm bringing my nude pumps with me wherever I go for whatever shopping visit. And it's just because I feel more confident that way.
I know for me, being in heels makes me feel a little bit more special.
Exactly.
Too.
Yes.
So typically I'm in sneakers, like beaded sneakers all day and running around. But when I get dressed up, I typically will like to be in a heel. It just makes me feel a little bit fancier.
Yeah. More put together. It makes you feel like, for me too, I like the professionalism of like, I looked at myself in dresses very analytically, in a very analytical manner, because I'm picking apart the fabrics and the materials and things. And so when I feel like I am exactly the way that I want to be, that's when I can really absorb how I feel about the dress and about the gown. So yeah, also make sure you eat before your appointments and are feeling like, you know, happy and take a breath. I would say also too, don't rush and don't put the pressure on yourself to have to make a choice right that second.
Yes.
And I would say, you know, that's also what a good consultant will do, is help relieve that pressure from somebody as well.
The consultants are there to guide you.
Yes.
And not to sell to you, but to guide you into making the right decisions for what you're going to be wearing, and probably one of the most important dresses you'll ever wear in your life.
100%.
So that's the job of that consultant, to guide you in the right way and to kind of keep your mind organized.
Yes.
And if there's something that you say no to and you just don't feel it in your gut, then you just, that's fine. Take it off and just get rid of it.
Yep.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Well, this was a really great hour with you, or less than an hour. It was a really wonderful opportunity to be able to get some insight as to, you know, what's going on in bridal shopping. How do we prepare for it? What are Gen Z customers looking for? How do you want to shop? How do you want to be serviced? And this gave us a lot of insight about that. So for all of our brides out there, congratulations on your engagement, first of all.
Yes.
Second of all, be you. Be comfortable. Be confident. Share what your feelings are, if it's good, bad, indifferent. The more information that you provide to your consultant, the more that they can work for you in finding that right dress.
Absolutely.
Why should you listen to me? Why should you listen to all of this? Why should you do this? Why? Because Marie said so. Thank you so much, everybody.